Hi everyone, welcome again to another episode of the Flying Dawn the live stream. Of course, it's another rainy Saturday evening, but siguro kasabay nung weather, we're gonna talk a little bit about anxiety, depression, stress. So it's very important that you stay tuned for the entire session kasi we do have a very special guest. Sobrang professional nitong guest natin. She's a psychotherapist. Of course, when you say psychotherapist, not only is she a psychologist, she also deals with patients on a more one-on-one basis. Ito yung, I guess, if you watch a lot of movies, diba, marami tayong nakikita na the characters talking to their quote-unquote shrink, discussing their issues with the ultimate goal of finding the reason behind it. So I guess, to some extent, ganun rin yung gagawin natin tonight. We're gonna try and understand what anxiety, depression, and stress are, and more importantly, how they affect us. And of course, with the ultimate goal of understanding what we can do about it. Right? So without further ado, alam ko marami tayong pag-uusapan tonight. I wish to introduce our very, very special guest, Miss Ghia Nabong. All right. Sige, Ghia, naka-mute lang yung
Mute
mic.
pala.
Oh.
Hi,
So
everyone.
yun. So again, welcome to the live stream. Alam kong it's your first time to actually do something like this. At kinakabahan ka, pero don't worry. Balita ko matututunan mo sa live stream na to how to deal with stress and anxiety.
Feeling ko ako mag-anxiety attack kanina, pero okay.
Pero yeah, I guess to some extent we could say that there are a lot of types of anxiety, there are a lot of types of stress, some of which are, I'd say, normal, some of which are, of course, I wouldn't say abnormal naman, pero it goes out of hand. Now, when we talk about stress and anxiety, how do you differentiate it from something that's, let's say, depression? How do you differentiate being stressed with yung nga, pathological anxiety? Or, di ba may mga personality disorders na associated with it? What's the difference? Kasi, to be honest, I have no idea how to tick the boxes, so they say.
The ultimate difference of anxiety and depression is that depression is based on the past. So it is something most people are having challenges moving on from. And anxiety is more on the present. Like, kinakabahan ako because baka mangyari to, kinakabahan ako, baka kasi hindi ko magawa, kinakabahan ako, baka kung anong mangyari. You know that feeling of you're always at the edge of the cliff. So, when you look down, it's like you're gonna fall and you wouldn't know if it's really gonna happen or not. So anxiety is that. Whereas depression is you just feeling sad and sometimes feeling hopeless and helpless.
So, I guess parang when you look at it, sabi mo nga depression is the past. Tapos so you're stressing too much about the past. Yung anxiety naman, you're worried about the future, tama ba? Parang ganon.
Yeah, sometimes they go together. Sometimes you're anxious over something that happened in the past, and obviously because you got really or firmly affected by it, so you wouldn't want it to happen again. So you get anxious over it. So pwedeng combination siya of both. And what most people don't know is yung mga phobia na mga tinatawag natin. It's also an anxiety thing, like yung mga ano ba yung mga laging phobia, claustrophobia, that's anxiety over enclosed spaces. May tinatawag din sila na, I don't know if the people of the Philippines is familiar, but there is philophobia, fear of falling in love, mga ganon. That's anxiety. You get anxious over these things. Megalophobia, mga ganyan, scared of big buildings, mga ganon. So that's anxiety. And depression again is something from the past that's a little bit tricky for you to step away from. And we know that you use the term abnormal and normal. For this conversation, I would use the terms unnatural and natural. Sige. So
Right.
so it's natural for you to feel depressed, stressed, and anxious because you are human. And we all have different levels of coping. Iba-iba yung coping mechanism natin. But at some point, it becomes unnatural when in terms of timeline, it gets beyond mga 2 weeks, and it hampers the things that you need to do, like work, eat, sleep, and all the things that you naturally do in your day. So that's a quick answer to that.
So I guess yeah, that's a nice way of putting it na lang, no? So natural and unnatural. Kasi when you
Yes.
talk about natural and unnatural, parang hindi na masyado centered sa'yo na I'm normal, I'm abnormal, di ba? So natural, unnatural. Kasi
Mm-mm.
we are, like for example, sa situation ngayon with, of course, the pandemic happens, sobrang gasgas na lahat na lang ng pinag-usapan natin is about the pandemic. Pero, it's the biggest problem that most of us have faced I'd say it's more comparable to going to war, like World War II. Parang yun na yung level niya of anxiety and difficulty that a lot of people go through. So when you talk about that, of course it's something that's unnatural, and to the point that obviously people get stressed. Now, understanding that, would you say that it's normal to act stressed or to
It
act
is.
anxious during this time?
Very much, because of course, for all of us, this is the first time we are experiencing this. And except na lang kung buhay ka nung huling pandemya 100 years ago, of course,
Hmm.
and you have an experience. But it's very natural for everybody to be experiencing this. And as I've mentioned earlier, we all have different levels of coping. And sometimes it's not easy for somebody like salespeople who are always out and out in the streets, moving and dealing with the people outside. And it's not natural for them to just stay at home and do their thing over the internet. And at the same time, for people who always go to the office, it's so much different, like taking your commute or driving your car. And each time you drive your car, you get to process all these information, and you see all these things. Whatever you see kasi on the street, your mind is processing it. Kahit na nakita mo lang na, oh, yung stranger naka-red shirt, oh, yung stoplight green na and red na. And right now, this is very important. Right now, walang ganon. It's you waking up and seeing the same things over and over again. And each time kasi, when you take your commute, when you drive your car, that's energy burned. Okay? Nagsusunog ka ng enerhiya sa katawan mo. Galing sa pagkain na kinain mo, galing sa tulog na ginawa mo. Ngayon, since wala nang ganon, you have so much energy in your head and in your body that sometimes they manifest in a negative way. Sometimes they become unnecessary thoughts called stress. Sometimes they become unnecessary emotions like anxiety and depression. Sometimes they manifest in you physically. Some people gain weight, some people lose a lot of weight. So and that is why the pandemic is really affecting everybody in every unique and in every natural pattern.
So when you talk about dahil people don't go about their normal routines that much, 'di ba? Parang so apart from that, yung how big of a factor is, let's say, yung lack of interaction with our friends, with our family. How big of a factor does it contribute when it comes to anxiety or even depression?
Very, 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 very big. In our therapy center, Hello Happy PH, whenever somebody is talking to us for counseling or for therapy, we would always say that in life, you need the three people. Okay? One is the first person or group of people is somebody you could talk to any time of the day. Right? And these people are usually your 2 a.m. friends. Yung kahit anong ginagawa mo, they would answer your call. And it's because they know you guys need each other. And then most of the time they are the ones who tell you who tells you yung mga I told you so, yung kahit na naaasar na sa'yo is nakikinig pa rin sa mga sinasabi mo, usually are true friends. Okay, that's one, the first set of people that you need in your life. Number two is a person who could be with you physically. Okay, and syempre pandemya, walang ganto. And to your athletes coach and to the people right now watching who are triathletes, most of the time these are the people you train with, right? It's either your coach or your teammates or just like your training buddy. Usually ganon. You usually don't talk about your stressors and the things that you are dealing with individually, but but your presence with one another is big enough for you to release all the things that you need to release. So yun yung persons one and people A and people B. And of course, since pandemya, medyo mahirap to. And very important because people also ask me, Gia, meron naman Zoom. So nakakausap mo naman yung mga tao sa Zoom. It's so much different when you are together personally. Of course, hugs are a big thing. And at the same time, when you are just right next to each other, you form that collective energy with one another, giving good vibes. Kung good vibes kayo, and syempre kung medyo mabigat din yung environment, minsan nararamdaman din natin as human beings na mabigat. And most of the time, of course, as an athlete, if you are training, maganda yung environment because you just want to bring out the best in you. And most of the time, when people who are training with you are giving their best, you get to be pushed to get to do your best too. So same. And person number three is usually a stranger. Stranger who doesn't have bias or judgment. Kasi hindi nila kilala yung mga tao sa paligid mo. And and it's so very helpful if the stranger that you are talking to is a mental health professional. Kasi, of course, mental health professionals, kahit ano yan, psychiatrist, psychologist, psychotherapist, guidance counselors, so any form of mental health professional, it's always helpful if you talk to them because, of course, they would want to bring out the best in you, obviously. And wala naman akong kilalang therapist na gusto mapasama ka. And number two, is that, of course, yun nga, wala silang bias, wala silang judgment. They don't know the people around you. They don't know the people you have dealt with in the past. And of course, and at the same time, hindi sila yung mga tao na I told you so. Because sometimes, yung persons A and B, they give toxic positivity. Yung kanyari, you confide on your friend and sasabihin mo sa friend mo, kasi ganito yung nararamdaman ko, malungkot ako ngayon, hindi ako makabangon sa kama. And sasabihin niya, kaya mo yan, ako nga pinagdaanan ko rin yan eh. Which is natural for us to hear, right? You can do it. I mean, everybody's experiencing it. But of course, when you're stuck in that moment feeling down, that's not the words that you want to hear, right? And these words usually don't help. And yung tao na naman na nagbigay sa'yo noon, hindi naman yan mean na mapasama ka. Pero para sa'yo, hindi mo na ako natulungan, kinumpare mo pa ako sa'yo. So, and it's unfair of us to expect to hear the right words from them because they weren't trained. So having to answer that question, you need three people usually. And it's so persons A, people you can talk to anytime. That's your 2 a.m. friends. Person B is your buddy, right? Kahit na magbasa lang kayo together, kahit na magkape lang kayo together, you don't really talk about. Sometimes naman blend yon, mixture of A and B. And C is a stranger nga that you can talk to professionally and maybe just yung passerby lang. Ganyan. And yun, so having to answer your question, it's affecting a lot of people not being able to talk to people, to outside people whom they feel could understand them and be with them together to just release the energy or just release the emotions and thoughts that they are feeling.
Okay. So, that's very powerful in the sense that, very relatable for a lot of us. Kasi nga, like, I guess you could say na Zoom isn't the same as face-to-face interaction, but at the same time, when I look back, sinasabi ko how difficult would this be if this happened, let's say, in the 90s? Na,
Right.
landline nga lang ang hirap na, di ba?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so parang, in that sense, I like to think about it in a way na at least meron tayo nito for now. Tapos nun, kapag, things start to get better, which I think kahit papaano things are getting better naman, it will start to, we could start to transition. Now, I guess yung isang source of anxiety ng maraming tao, yung concept of new normal. Kasi when you talk about the word new normal, merong connotation na hindi na tayo babalik sa dati nating ginagawa. Now, based, of course, I'm no infectious disease expert or anything. I'm no sociologist or what. Pero the way we look at it, mukhang babalik naman tayo eventually sa dati nating ginagawa, no? So, how should we approach the current times? Of course, should we be focused on, finding the new normal now? Or should we have a longer sight na parang, this is just temporary, and gonna get back to the way we were doing things eventually. So, you know, parang how much weight should we put on each particular mindset?
So right now, the most important thing for us to do is to take care of ourselves. Obviously, because we don't know where we're going, to be honest. And right, I know things are starting to get better, and, and all of us naman individually, meron tayong kanya-kanyang coping mechanism. That's why some people cope faster in terms of whatever you are struggling with in life or having challenges within life. And of course, again, ultimate thing is you have to take care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself, it doesn't just mean na okay, kakain ako and tatratuhin ko yung sarili ko maayos by exercising, but I'll get to that later. Those are very important. But for you to be able to take care of yourself, you have to look at yourself holistically. Right? Holistical meaning, you check if you are socially okay. Nakikipag-usap ka pa ba sa mga tao? Okay ka pa ba? Na kinakausap ka rin ba nila? Number two, okay ka ba emotionally? Right? May nasasabihan ka ba? Yun yung mention ko kanina na persons A, B, and C. Okay ka ba intellectually? Natututo ka ba at this pandemic kasi medyo mahaba na, no? So, and how long have you been here? Like 7 to 8 months. And it's not natural anymore if you to me that if you get stagnated or if kung stagnant ka at hindi ka nag-work or hindi ka natututo. And it's so nice because without us realizing, people have their own coping mechanism. Like, ang daming tao ngayon na nag-bake ng banana bread. Isa ka ba sa mga tao na ganun? Naging plantita o plantito ka ba? That's people's way of coping. Gumawa ka ba ng dalgona coffee? Ano pa ba yung mga nauso dyan? Naggumawa ka ba o bumili ka ba ng sushi bake? Mga ganon. So that's people coping. And you also want to take a look at yourself, recreational. So of course, we all have our finances that we have to manage at this point in our lives. But do you not deprive yourself from being happy in terms of may usong milk tea or si mga tao umiinom ng milk tea, ikaw ba tinikman mo rin ba yan? Or na-stuck ka dun sa, hindi malungkot ako, wala akong gagawin na kakaibang ganito. Or at the same time, did you attend webinars for self-development and for you to be able to learn new things? Ang daming libre ngayon, whether it may be it's people's way or it's instructors or it's professionals way of giving back to the world lately. So ang dami yoga classes, even yung mga Harvard, yung mga Ivy League school namimigay, 'di ba? Nagpapa-sign up ng mga free classes. So of course, you take care of yourself right now until such time and aside from you have to take care of yourself, obviously for most of us, we have to take care of other people too. And right? So for you to be able to be capable of taking care of the people around you, the ones that you need to provide for and care for, you have to fill your cup first. So look at yourself in that aspect, social, emotional. Maybe if you want to look at yourself spiritual too, spiritual is non-religious, mga kababayan. It's you giving back to the world. Because I'd say that the best, I say this in my yoga classes, the best rent that you pay on earth is being kind. So maybe right now you would want to fill your spiritual cup too. Like it doesn't have to be monetary. You could just volunteer in some causes online. Ngayon wala naman tayo magawa na physical. Maybe if you are strong on kids, you might want to post something about an orphanage or if you want to set up a drive, ganon. So it's you being active and just taking care of yourself in the spiritual. So ulitin ko, social, emotional, spiritual, physical. Sorry, na-miss ko yung physical. So physical is you not just working out. It's physical na holistic na lahat overall. And physical is you, of course, working out because as we know that when you work out, you release your happy hormones called endorphins and the other hormones that make you happy, that make you stable and happy. And at most, kung titignan niya yung mga atleta, yung mga competing athletes and yung mga nag-aatleta para lang, nagta-triathlon or nagre-race para matapos, sasabihin ng iba, hindi ko kailangan mag-place, coach. Ang kailangan ko lang is matapos to because it makes me happy. And then si coach will remind them na, okay, but make sure that it's for your self-development. So kung ano yung time mo, siguro, just you don't have to beat other people. Just keep on beating yourself. And to them, that's good enough. And that's physical well-being in them. And so that's physical. Make sure you have your routine every day if you can. So, hindi ibig sabihin na kailangan mo mag-workout every day. A daily routine means rest in between. And we know that because we need to recover, right? And so physical, you want to include your daily routine nga of moving. Number two is, kumakain ka ba ng tama? Or kung yung mga kinakain mo is yung mga bagay na hindi talaga kailangan ng katawan natin, pero ng panlasa lang natin. Ganon. So make sure you are eating the right food that you need, regardless if you are moving or not. Because some people think that they have to eat extra special or extra nutritious when they are working out. You may not be physically moving, but all of your organs are still working. Your belly is your stomach, your intestines are working, your liver is working, kidney, your brain, your eyes, so everything. And kung gumagana yung mga yon, syempre kailangan mo ng energy, and you get your energy through food and sleep. And of course the air that you breathe. And so that's nutrition. And number three is what people set aside the most is sleep. So obviously we need, sabi nila, you need 6 to 8 hours of sleep in a day, and most people forget about that. They forget that sana yung buhay natin is 8-8-8. 8 is to rest, 8 is to play, and 8 is to work sana as much as possible. Pero para may balance yung buhay, mababawas din yung stress mo sa katawan, anxiety, and depression if you get a mixture of that. So, ulit, emotional, spiritual, recreational, intellectual, and physical.
So,
You
ang dami, no? Kasi parang, when you think about it, parang akala mo ang simple lang ng buhay na, a lot of it actually, tama ka eh, parang a lot of people tend to devote a lot of attention to things like work, understandably so. Pero minsan na umabot sa point na nakakalimutan natin alagaan yung sarili natin and the other aspects. Tapos siguro isa pang question, 'di ba, pinag-usapan natin yung self-care, ganon. Pero ang hirap kasi alagaan yung sarili kapag kunwari panahon na ngayon na for some people or even most of us, of course, syempre malaking concern ang expenses, malaking concern yung pagtitipid. So, parang for example, hindi ko na lang kakainin or bibilihin tong favorite kong whatever food or sa Netflix subscription ko, ganun. So, parang ang nangyayari, I guess, parang lalo nilang nararamdaman yung hole or yung discrepancy sa current na nararamdaman nila or current na pinagdadaanan nila sa usual na pinagdadaanan nila. So, kumbaga, would you say that does more harm than it does good?
Most of the time, because you feel deprived. Diba? Kung dati, nabibili or nagagawa mo lahat ng gusto mo, like, sometimes it just doesn't have to be monetary. Like, for the people in our world, sa triathlon, sarado yung mga gyms nila. Sarado kung saan sila nagsiswim. And to them, like, sasabihin nila, ay nako, hindi ako makaswim. Kakaasar na pandemic to. So that's one. And sige, dagdag na natin yung financial. Like, dati lagi kong kumakain sa isang, sabihin natin, restaurant na fancy, or kahit hindi fancy, leaning towards fancy. And that's not what you get. And all the more you feel that, shucks, nakakaasar talaga. So, ganun, nagpapatong-patong. And mind you, when you always look and you always say these out from your mouth and have it in your brain, it builds into the depression of your system. And all the more that you get into the verge of depression. Ngayon, the most important thing for people to hear is that aside from the things that you cannot do, you focus on the things. You change your paradigm. You change how your brain works. You focus on the things that you can do, right? So right now you're at home. I always say to people, use this time of our lives to improve your life and hopefully to help improve others. So, syempre, ulitin ko, susimulan mo sa sarili mo. So, sige, hindi ka makapag-gym, but there's so many ways to work out in your house without any equipment. Diba? So, you focus on that. Huwag ka mag-focus sa wala kang pool. And of course, ikaw, coach, mabibigyan mo naman yung mga coach mo ng ways on how they can still, in a way, be strong in terms of swimming through land exercises. Mga ganyan. And kung hindi ka makakain sa fancy na restaurant or dun sa mga dati mong gustong kainin, most likely you can prepare for yourself, or you can have your wife prepare for you, or you can have anybody prepare for you, ganon. And maybe it's not the same as a Michelin or a five-star restaurant, but it's your version, and call it your Don V version, or Jana version, or Isaac version. So ganon. And again, at this point in time, aside from we have to take care of ourselves, we have to switch our paradigm into the things that we currently have, and not looking at the fence that where we were before, yung before the pandemic. Yeah.
So actually, medyo to some extent, I'm a bit happy with what you said kasi when the lockdown first happened, parang parang yung feeling mo parang kang plant na ina-uproot at hinahanapan ng paso. So, that's a good analogy. I would say what we were all feeling. Tapos yung, I'm not any psychologist or anything. I don't have no training at all. Pero yung una ko sinabi nga doon sa mga athletes ko na nahihirapan when it comes to bawal bike, bawal mag-run. Because focus na lang tayo sa ano yung pwede natin gawin. And that was
Exactly.
indoor training. Walang may weights. O sige, body weight. So, gawa kami mga body weight routine, ganun. So, ngayon ka lang na-realize na, that's not, kasi from me, as a coach, my perspective then was just to get their physical fitness going. Kasi akala ko dati 2 weeks lang eh. Akala ko 2 weeks lang yung lockdown. Mahaba na yung 1 month. Who would have thought abot ng 7 months, diba? But yun nga, little did I know na malaking factor rin pala yan psychologically in terms of, finding some sort of routine that you can continue with. Yung, I guess, isa pang question I get a lot when it comes to dealing with stress, anxiety, ganun. How helpful would it be to talk to kung pinag-usapan natin, diba, may 3 types of people that you could talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, we should talk to a therapist na hindi close sa atin, who could give us an objective, third person, I guess, unbiased take on a particular subject matter.
Mm-hmm.
But since we have friends that we often talk to, how useful it is to just rant, let out some steam na parang, this is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm doing with. Kahit na walang response from the person na sabihin mong, advice na, di ba, when we talk about certain things, hindi naman laging may hinihintay tayong, parang mind-blowing or, or eye-opening piece of advice. Sometimes just getting it out there is very useful. So, what's your take on that?
This example I usually use when I have therapy with the people who are grieving and who are still not okay because of significant things that happened to them in this pandemic. So, alam niyo yung kapag namatayan tayo, na kunyari ako, namatay ang lola ko, ang tatay ko, or kahit sinong malapit sa akin. Like, they would ask me, ano bang nangyari? Anong nangyari? Bakit namatay? Sasabihin mo, ay ganito po, natake po sa puso, dinala ko po sa ospital, tapos hindi na po umabot. Ayun po, kaya nandito po tayo ngayon. So, isang tita yon dumating. Susunod mong tita, ano bang nangyari kay Ricardo? So, ito po, inatake po sa puso, hindi ko po alam kung bakit ilang araw na po siyang hindi kumakain, tapos dinala ko sa ospital, and same story, and people would be coming over, and at some point in time, you'd feel that, oh shucks, I feel a little bit better because I was able to say it out of my mouth, and I was able to hear it from my own ears, and my brain was able to process it, and at some point, yung acceptance, ganon, yung acceptance umiikot sa brain mo that yes, it's real, it's happening, and there is no way but for us to accept and to move on. Siyempre, yung moving on, iba-iba, kanya-kanya nga yung coping. Pero your brain, since you are a human being and the brain is functioning, at some point, there's this back end in you that's saying na, hindi, ito yung nangyayari. Reality mo to, Ghia. Reality mo to, Don. Ito yung nangyayari. Narinig mo naman sa sarili mong bibig. Nakita mo naman sa sarili mong mata. Narinig na mo naman sa sarili mong tenga. And it's your brain processing. And it is the same way as what you are when you are with your friends, when you are talking about how you feel. At some point, it just gets really, really better when you unload it with somebody, especially somebody you can trust. And without bias in person number 3.
So, parang the way you're talking, I'd say it's somewhat analogous to what yung, di ba, yung levels of yung stages of acceptance, yung first yung
Acceptance, yes.
denial,
Yes,
di
yes,
ba, ano ba
yes.
yun?
Oo,
Ano ba
dulo
yun?
acceptance.
Denial, and then
Oo. Hindi ko maalala. Pero
bargaining.
yes, bargaining and dulo is acceptance. Yes, it's ganon.
Oo,
But it's a self-process na with your senses. Speech, hear and your eyesight, and then your thought process is also there. Being a chain, and yung chain of thought mo, patatag ng patatag na ikaw din patatag ng patatag. Oh yes, this is happening. Oh yes, this is happening. So yun. And of course, together with the comfort of what those people gave you, 'di ba? Hindi nga laman lagi is verbal, pero yung comfort na dumating sila, nakinig sila, alam mo yung inabsorb nila yung kung ano mang energy na binigay mo, kung ano man yung naging environment ng conversation nyo. And that's very, very important as for us people.
so, having that experience with you, how difficult is it to deal with something like that during such a situation like a pandemic? Kasi nga, like sabi mo nga, hug. Ang hirap kasi ngayon, bawal ka na mag-hug. Bawal na ultimo shake hands, di ba?
Kahit high
Makita mo
five.
lang yung mukha ng kausap mo, kailangan several feet apart pa. Yung that type of connection between people, what can we do about it? Kasi syempre, tulad nga ng sabi mo, it's not something we should focus on. Dapat hindi na tayo mag-focus sa hindi natin pwede gawin. But what can we make up? How can we make up for it rather? Some dealing with stuff like that.
If there's a lot of things that this time of our challenging life has brought us, but there's one thing that I usually hear, and of course I am just one person, but I talk to a lot of people who are struggling right now, and the ultimate thing that we hear is that they have closer connections with some people, and of course it's very obvious that we cannot hug, that we cannot do such and such, but they check on people now more than they used to. Like, ikaw, okay ka pa ba? Ikaw, uy, baka kung pwede Zoom inuman naman tayo. And some people didn't do this in their lives. Like, hey, to most, they check on their parents now, especially we know that the senior citizens are most fragile in this time of our lives. So ganun, nagiging more active yung connections nila. But if there is a downside, since lahat tayo nag-check sa social media, it's the social media time for everybody gets to be higher. And that is another conversation that at some point anxiety and depression would manifest out of you having so much time in your gadget and in social media. But yes, there's stronger connection now in terms of you checking on people, in terms of kasi ngayon mag-post lang yung tao na hindi siya okay. Para, oh, kumusta ka na? Okay ka ba? Okay ka na? Either kinakabahan sila na may COVID yung tao, or as simple as they want to check on the person to check if they are okay in any aspect of being okay.
So, yun yung no. Dati, bago yung pandemic, very common yung status na not feeling well. Ngayon,
wala magpo-post.
Wala na magpo-post. Either because takot machismis, or parang common naman
UI.
parang naging norm na siya. So, siguro on the other side of the fence, we're talking about venting out to our friends. What happens if someone vents out to us? What's the best way of, let's say, either do we just listen? Kailangan ba may sabihin tayo? Kailangan ba may take tayo? Or what? Or, just the mere fact that we're listening and that we understand what they're saying, would you say it's enough?
Here, if you are unsure, if you are capable of saying the right words of that present moment to someone, it's just very, very helpful that you say that, okay, I'm here, I'm listening. Okay, I'm here, I'm listening. Laging ganon. So, usually ngayon, di ba, sa text nag-event or kahit sa Zoom, ganyan, yun lang, yung physical reaction mo lang na, okay, tatango ka or such. But of course, if you can give comforting words, like, right now, I know it's lagi tayong positive scripting. Tandaan nyo sana, kung maaari. Kasi kung positive scripting tayo sa sarili natin, positive scripting din tayo sa ibang tao. So, laging nating sasabihin sana na, okay, and you acknowledge pala. Number one, you acknowledge yung what they are saying. Okay, I understand that this is what you are going through right now, but okay, I am here, I am listening. Okay, I am here, I am listening. And at the same time, lagi natin tatandaan na wag magbigay ng anything comparable or ng may comparison. Like, kita mo tong si Don, nung isang araw, pinagdadaanan niya to, pero okay na siya ngayon. Okay lang na gawin mo yon, pero magbigay ka ng example ng ginawa niya para maging okay. For it to be an example, to be mimicked. So, like, ito si Don, hindi siya okay, pero ito yung ginawa niya. Nag-set siya ng routine, and nag-exercise siya araw-araw, kumain siya ng tama, nakipag-usap siya sa isang therapist, or he opened up with his wife or with his family. And so at least may example na ganun. So sandwich ang tawag, so okay lang. Tapos may sinabi ka na isang example, and at the same time, binigyan mo ng mga examples for it to be helpful and for that person to copy or mimic. So yun sa yung very, very important. If you feel that you are not capable, or there are no examples that you can share, the important thing is that you acknowledge what the person is saying, and at the same time, you let the person feel that you are present, you are available, at kung maaari, undivided attention yung ibibigay mo. Hindi ka nagte-text, hindi ka kumakain, titingin ka sa mata, because that is real kung naka-zoom. Or kung magkatabi, ngayon siguro kapamilya mo, kasama mo sa bahay, at titingin ka sa mata, because that's real connection with with us human beings.
Yung, I guess yung common kasi nangyayari, although of course when you talk about it, it's not really something that's intentional. It's probably because yun nga, people are dealing with this for the first time may mag-confide sa kanila, first time may humingi ng tulong sa kanila. So yung naging common way of, I guess, replying to a particular concern or rant, yung sasabihin na kunyari, for example, oh, I'm so sad because I don't know if I can hit my targets this 2020, for example lang, someone is into sales, ganun. Sabihin ng iba, hindi, isipin mo nga yung ito, si ganun nawala ng trabaho, ganun. So parang nangyayari, I don't know if you could call it toxic positivity, diba?
Yeah.
Parang that doesn't make me feel any better to hear
Hindi
someone.
nga. Kasi kinumpira ka pa.
Oh, to hear
Right?
someone, at a worse off situation than you. So yun nga, parang so tama ka, yung I guess that's the main tip that we could give people is dapat positive. You don't compare. Instead, focus on what they can do instead, rather than the situation. Now, on top of that, yung pinag-usapan namin kasi before with si Lee, who's a sports psychologist, which is of course, ano kayo you basically do similar things, pero sa kanya kasi more focused on sports.
Right.
Tayo more, I guess we could say we have a more generic way
yeah.
of looking at, pwedeng non-athlete, pwedeng recreational athlete, etc. So yung isa kasing pinag-usapan namin is to focus on things that you could actually control, diba? So alam ko, pinag-usapan natin yung talking about your routine, having control over your routine. Pero paano kung wala ka talagang control over something and it's something that's very important to you, such as dealing with a problem at work na kailangan mo siyang harapin pero wala kang magagawa about it. You're basically parang your head is on the chopping block. So are we really powerless? Or is there a way to reframe it in such a way na, hindi, may magagawa ka pa about it?
You are powerless with other people's feelings, thoughts, words, and everything that is about them. But the ultimate power that you have is the one that you have within you. And in this point in our lives, the most important superpower that we have is controlling how we think and how we manage our situation internally. So for example, ito, meron ka sa work, kailangan gawin, and nasistress ka, anxious ka na sa bagay na yon. And sabihin natin na yung work na yon involves people. And these people are a little bit indifferent and a little bit difficult to deal with. And of course, you cannot change them. But the ultimate thing that you can change is how you look at the things that you are going to do and how you will react to the situation. So, kunyari, mahirap silang katrabaho. Ano bang gagawin mo? Sasabihin mo sa sarili mo paulit-ulit na nakakaasar yun si Ricardo, paulit-ulit niyang sinasabi sa akin yun. And each time sinasabi mong nakakaasar siya, it builds or it's nagsisteam yung negativity inside you. Instead na, humiya ka na lang at i-acknowledge mo na, okay, naaasar ako kay Ricardo, wala ako magagawa tungkol sa kanya, pero gagawin ko pa rin yung trabaho ko kasi kailangan. So instead of focusing on the emotions, in your emotions, negative emotions towards Ricardo, might as well focus on what you can do. Daming pwede mong gawin kapag naaasar ka sa tao. Breathing technique, hug your child, drink your favorite milk tea, eat your favorite ice cream. And these things, make you happy. It stimulates your happy hormones. Focus on that. And most likely, you would be able to, you would be able to do the things you can do at work, nang maayos. Kasi hindi ka na nagsisteam out of galit kay Ricardo. So you cannot control what other people is gonna say, what other people are going to do. You cannot, kahit anong emotion nila, kahit anong reaction nila, the only thing that you can control is yourself and how you deal with things.
So, again, it goes back to us, no, yung dealing with certain things. Yung, isa pang, I guess, this is a common thing that, people I deal with, or my athletes, or my friends, even myself deal with. What happens when you think about something that's stressful? Tapos, alam niyo, nag-wild na yung thoughts mo. Oh, these are the possible, parang nag-multiple timeline na, oh, these are the possible things that can happen. Palala ng palala, hanggang nagiging worst case scenario. Tapos, the more you obsess about the worst case scenario or the thing that can go wrong, the more real it becomes for you. So, meron ba tayong parang inisip ko kasi meron pa tayong mga mental trick or parang mental practice para hindi mag-spiral out of control yung mga ganong bagay. Dapat ba simula pa lang, nip it at the bud? Or, do you let it flow? What should you do?
So what you mentioned is actually anxiety. It's stressing over something continuously and it becomes a chain of thought. And that chain you want to break. Because kaya ng chain, na may loops, ganon. Kunyari, iisipin mo, ay, may race ako, full Ironman. Ay, naku, pwedeng hindi ko matapos yung swim. Pero teka, pag natapos ko yung swim, pwede naman ako ma-flatan sa bike. Ay, sandali, baka mag-stop bigla yung tao sa harap ko and hindi ako focused masyado. So, it could be a chain of thought. And yung, what if? Yes, when you are anxious, there's so many things that you can do. But the ultimate thing is you take long and deep inhales and exhales. Right? Usually, sa mga nag-therapy or sa mga taong na-experience ito sa buhay nila. And just to insert it right now, before we run out of time, it's very, very normal to feel anxiety at some point in our lives. It's very natural to be depressed, to be in a depressing state. What's not natural, again, is that you not being able to do the things that you naturally do. Okay? So, meron talagang point in our lives na kung magkakarera tayo and you know that this is something that means a lot to you, it's natural for you to feel that way because you know it means a lot. Kung wala kang pakialam, then it means that it doesn't mean anything. You didn't work hard for it. And you did a lot of things for you to be able to get there and hopefully for you to be able to finish, regardless if that's about athleticism or in school, the thesis natin, di ba? Kunyari, matagal mo siyang pinaghirapan pagdating na ng ipe-present mo siya, right? Siyempre, kakabahan ka because it means a lot to you. So, normal po na magkaroon tayo ng mga anxiety at some point in our lives. And we could do a lot of things about it, right? Number one is you take your breathing pattern. So, ganon, long and deep inhales and exhales. Pag sinasyon, nakakatuwa nga because the world has evolved so much that when you search it on YouTube, maraming nakalagay doon na your breathing techniques for meditation, breathing techniques for depression, maraming ganyan. But usually, you just take long and deep inhales, like inhale for 6 seconds, hold the breath for 6 seconds, and then exhale it for 6 seconds. Do that for 2 minutes. Alam niyo yung kapag umiiyak tayo, tapos, o kaya, nag-wild na tayo, nag-breakdown na tayo, tapos sasabihin sa atin ng mga mga tao na kumalma ka, huminga ka ng malalim. It's the same. It all starts with the mind, and then you work it on it through your breath. So it's the same. And at the same time, this is a question that's always asked for people who are going through anxiety. Bakit sumasama yung pakiramdam ko kapag nagkakaroon ako ng anxiety attack when I am on my anxious brain, when my anxious brain is active? uh, alam niyo yung kapag kinakabahan tayo, meron tayong butterflies in our stomach, tapos yung iba naman nanlalamig, like sweaty palms, yung iba naman ay may pins and needles, ganyan. And it's because when you have, yung pinag-usapan natin na, when we have these train of thoughts na sa sistema natin about worry, about fear, about or distress over a trigger, pwedeng ang trigger is yun nga, thesis, o pwedeng pitch sa work, sa sales, right? The brain would have those loops in our head, and kakabahan, sasabihin niya sa heart, sasabihin ng brain sa heart, kinakabahan ka, ganyan. So yung heart, bibilis yung pintig ng puso. And of course, as we know, science-wise, the heart is responsible in sending blood all over the body, right? It pumps blood and it sends blood all over the body. And blood carries oxygen. Okay? Now, when there is not enough oxygen sent to your brain, to your fingertips, to your tummy, to anywhere in your system, you feel these things. And ultimately, ang root nun is yung anxiety. So kung nagkakaroon ka ng butterflies in your stomach, it's because mabilis yung pintig ng puso mo. Yung puso mo hindi nagpapump ng blood ng maayos. Wala masyadong oxygen dun sa blood. Same as yung iba sabi nila, bakit po ako, yung batok ko, namamanhid, yung fingertips ko, namamanhid, or sweaty palms. Yung iba naman, pumuputok yung mga blood vessels sa face, kaya umiinit yung face. Diba? May mga ganun. Tapos bigla rosy cheeks ka na. At saka red na yung lips mo. So it's because of that. So not just that it's mental, not just that it's emotional, it's overall physical. So as much as you can for your days and the things that you need to do for not to get hampered, you need to put a stop on it. You control what your mind is saying. You can breathe. You can eat your favorite food for you to be happy. You can do yoga. I'm a yoga teacher, but I'm not just saying this because I promote yoga, but because it's for the mind, body, and spirit. It's holistic, and at the same time. And at the same time, if alam mo na sa sarili mo, kung alam mo na yung sekreto kung paano to ma-stop sa sarili mo, next time you would be able to know how to put a stop on it. And it's simply because you can control how you feel. You can control how you think. Right? You cannot control the situation, but you can control what you are and how you are.
So when you talk about, diba, dapat parang control natin yung train of thought natin. But I understand also that when people say that anxiety has a role to play in our normal life, diba? Some level of stress is acceptable, or in fact necessary. Some level of anxiety is, needed in our life kasi that will
push you to do better things.
Make you more productive, diba? Now,
Yeah.
I guess you think yung train of thought mo towards anxiety, understanding that ang daming scenario na pwede mangyari, it's not something that we should also completely neglect, diba?
Of course, yeah.
Kasi that's our brain telling us na you need to be ready for a particular outcome, ganon. So, pero I guess, like for example, for me, the difficult part is being objective and being detached from what you need to do with what you're feeling, di ba? Yun yung ano yun
Yes,
yung
that's
mahirap
true.
Pero, may specific trick ba for that to happen? I guess you could say, I don't know if I get the word correct, yung parang may dissonance, meron kang detachment from that particular outcome. Ano ba yung pwede mo gawin, like mental trick or anything? Aside from
It's
breathing, of course.
it's usually that. Make sure that you have your support band-aid, yung sinabi ko nung una, and then have this wellness toolbox with you. So each time you don't feel okay, when you are okay, cherry pick the things that you like doing, that you know that make you happy. right? Like, these things are yung mga paborito mong gawin. Like, mag-swim, mag-bike, mag-run, i-hug yung girlfriend mo, yung friends mo, kung ano-ano pa na kaya mong gawin. Put that on the side. Take note of that. Okay? So, ulitin ko, yung una is yung three people, right? That we need in life. That's our mental first aid kit. And the other one is your wellness toolbox that you always need to have. So sa buhay, may first aid kit ka, may toolbox ka pa. And that toolbox would consist of the things that you like doing, feeling, seeing, eating. Put them on the side. So when the time comes that you feel that you are not okay, right, mentally, emotionally, and physically, you go back to these things. Like, I am not okay today. And maybe if I do this, I would be able to feel a little bit better. Like, it's as simple as kapag hindi ka okay sa trabaho, alam mo, nagpapasaya sa'yo kape. Yung ibang tao, automatic, without realizing that it makes it, that their body is longing for it, they would go down to take a breather and drink their coffee and hopefully mahimasmasan. And then pagbalik sa opisina, better na, ng ganon. And the next thing, and the other thing is that if you can have an accountability body. Yung accountability body mo can be one of the three people that you have. Ito yung mga tao na alam nila kung ano yung laman ng wellness toolbox mo. So, sasabihin sa'yo nitong usually asawa natin, girlfriend natin, o anak natin to. Like, okay, so Don, si Jana, sasabihin niya, Don, medyo hindi ka okay ngayon. Why don't you try cooking your favorite food? Why don't you try this and why don't you try that? And ultimately, hopefully, ultimately, you would be able to feel better. And make sure that you cherry pick not just one, two, or three items, because sometimes some things are not available. And it's a little bit challenging for us to get everything naman. So so cherry pick the ones, mga 12 ganun, or a number for you to be able to get them when you need them.
So, yeah. So, very, parang medyo out of the box in the sense na hindi ko alam na may wellness toolbox pala tayo. Pero parang naalala ko tuloy yung sa Sound of Music, yung song na Few of My Favorite Things, diba? Parang favorite ni Isaac yung yung naalala ko. Pero I guess, parang ganun kasimple. Sometimes, it's totoo nga siguro talaga yung sinasabi nila, sometimes it's all in the mind. And whatever you entertain or you keep in your mind, it will eventually manifest in your body. And that's what we want to control and avoid. Now, di ba pinag-usapan natin before, sabi mo, early in the live stream, you were talking about malaking source of anxiety. And dahil you have so much pent-up energy that you're not burning. Because you're not doing your regular routine, you're not going out, things like that. So, that being said, how big, like, can we fill up this, not void, kasi nga excess, di ba? Pero can we burn this excess energy specifically by exercising? Is that a good enough, para substitute for the regular routine? Like things like yoga, gano'n ba talaga yung benefit ng exercise, specifically yoga, to our well-being? Kasi di ba, seeing yoga, of course, nag-yoga with you, si Jana, malaking part ang breathing.
Oh, yeah.
Malaking part ang pag-inhale, pag-exhale, pag-control. So parang ako, the way I look at it, yung pag sinabi mo kanina yung breathing exercise na ginagawa natin, ito yung ginagawa mo pag pagod ka sa swim, di ba, bubbles. Pag nagpapanik ka sa swim, di ba, or pag nag-hyperventilate ka, you breathe into a bag. So, something like that. So maybe you could share us a little bit about, exercise and yoga, how it plays a particular role in our lives.
May I add something? It's not just breathing. And you can, yoga is 1/3 breathing. Okay, when you attend yoga classes, they would say inhale, exhale. A yoga teacher would say inhale and exhale over and over again, maybe like 100 times in a class. It's 1/3 breathing, and the rest would be your gaze. We call it drishti. Tapos yung huli naman is about physical, yung how you lock your body. But with the focus, I would say that it's safe to say that we practice focus in yoga, like by not moving and by staying in a pose. And it's the same thing as how we focus on our emotions, and not focus on what other people is doing, and how we get manipulated or how we get impacted by other people. And if I may add, very, very important to people who are doing therapy, we all meditate sana. Right? When we are not okay, when we are in depression, lahat ng mental syndrome, disorder, or mga functionalities na hindi natin nagagawa, we always ask people to meditate. And sometimes people would get alienated by meditation, with meditation. It's because they feel that it's something religious, but it's not really. It's not really religious. It's just like sabi mo kanina, coach, it's a mental trick, right? Allow me to share. We ask people to meditate in the morning, to kick their thoughts away in the morning, sa umaga. And what meditation in the morning does to you is that lahat ng collective na thoughts mo sa umaga, it kicks it away. Tinatanggal lahat, good and bad, good and bad. Tapos you'd sit there for like 5 to 10 minutes, I don't know, depending on how good you are already at meditation, but it kicks them away. And then when you stop meditating, those thoughts would come back to your head, perfectly stacked, the mind prioritizing one thing and then the other, one thing and then the other. Ganon. So pag may inisip or ginawa ka, uunahin mo yung sinabi ng brain mo na, ay, ito priority to, unahin mo to. Para hindi mangyayari sa iyo is, yung sa araw mo, nagluluto ka, tapos nakita mo, ay, sandali, meron pala akong labahin. So magja-jump ka na lang. It's you having your focus on that specific thing and not jumping on from one thing to another. Tapos syempre, tao tayo, and yung tao rin yung mga tao sa paligid natin, of course, a random thought within the day or a random thing within the day would enter. So what meditation would do to you is that it would give way to that thought as to where it has to be cued, either sa dulo or sa gitna ng mga kailangan mong gawin para hindi ka mataranta. Same with your emotions. Alam mo kung paano siya isang tabi, alam mo kung kailangan mo ba siyang bigyan ng energy na isipin, and that's what it does to you. Sa umaga sana. And then sa gabi, what meditation does to you is that it kicks away the negative things or the emotions that you collected in the day, so that at the end of the day, you'd get a good night's sleep and hopefully a good morning. So, yun yung mga sinasabi natin na mental trick, together with the breathing pattern that we discussed earlier.
So, yung meditation kasi, speaking from experience, it's a bit intimidating in the sense na parang, ano ba, do I reach some level of enlightenment when I do this? Parang, apart from that, yung, syempre nga, dahil ang daming iniisip, it's hard to turn off certain thoughts. Tapos nun, minsan akala mo blank na yung thought mo, biglang may mag-creep up na isa pang, thing that's bothering you. Tapos hindi mo mamalayan, biglang wala ka na sa meditative state, di ba? That being said, how do you go about meditation? May ano ba yan? May parang stages na parang, you need to start doing this first so you get into a deeper meditation. How do you get started?
There's so many ways to meditate. To be honest ako nagtuturo na ako meditation and yoga teacher. And please do not get us wrong. When you meditate, the goal is talagang may papasok at na may papasok sa isip mo. And the goal is for you to be able to kick it away and stay longer. The mind is active. We are smart. We are human beings. The brain does not stop working. And kahit nga natutulog tayo, gumagana yung utak natin through our dreams. Right? Or through our subconscious. Yung mga bukas ka, minsan may rapid eye movement ka or such. And sometimes you get to remember your dream when you upon waking up. So the point is that when you meditate, the goal is to kick away the thoughts that would enter into your mind. And it's the same as when you have emotions that you feel that you don't need, you kick them away because it's something that's not going to serve you. So it's the same life practice. And there's so many ways to meditate. People think that when you meditate, you're just like the monks who are wearing orange, that you have to sit there for hours and think of nothing. That's not the case. For all we know, they're also thinking of something else. Pero mawalang galang na. Pero alam mo yun? But of course, they are humans too. And one way to meditate, if you feel that you haven't aced it yet, but who aces it anyways, but if you feel that that you are still in the process of doing it and practicing it, is guided meditation. You play something, and usually ito yung mga naririnig natin na, okay, focus on how you feel, focus on the way you sit, really feel your sit bones grounded on the floor. It's grounding, it's you feeling everything and not thinking of anything but how you feel, the five senses, right? Focus on what you smell. It's being mindful at the present moment. Focus on how your butt is sticking down on the floor, on how your shoulders are down, and you just feel relaxed, and you'd feel that, yeah, I'm in a meditative state. Hindi naman yung meditative state na blanco, but chill ka, cool ka lang. Wala kang thoughts and emotions that are running, yung mga ballistic running.
So parang yun yung tinatawag nilang mindfulness, 'di ba?
Yes,
Oo.
right.
So
And
so
one more thing, sorry.
go ahead.
One word to add, para lang isa pang effective way to meditate is sindi ka ng kandila. Tapos yung flick, yung maliit na fire, titigan mo ng 2 minutes. Inhale ka lang and exhale. That's one way of practicing meditation too. And yun nga, mga guided meditation. And if you feel that at some point you are already ready to sit and just be steady, start it with 5 minutes, ganon. Tapos 6 minutes, ganyan. But if you are having concerns within you, mentally and emotionally, baka kaya mong twice a day sa umaga, tsaka bago ka matulog.
So the way I look at it as a coach, parang na siyang training for when you would experience something that's, stressful. You could, yun nga, parang tulad na sabi mo, place it in a particular
Time of the
position
day.
where, or hindi lang yun, yung parang mental, you could think of it as placing it in a mental box. Oh, I don't need this right now, set it aside. I also hear things like yung labeling, di ba? Pag, I know I'm in a, stressful state. So I can label my what I'm
You
feeling.
acknowledge. It's acknowledging. I
College.
am this. I am here. Yes.
Oo.
But
Pero
do I want to stay here? Do I want to stay here, or do I want to do something about this? Tapos may ano pa yan, may mga marami pa yung pailalim. If I stay here, would I be able to do what I need to do? Should I do this? Should I be staying here? Will this matter in 5 years, in 10 years? Alam mo, mahabang conversation yun, pero marami nagsistem doon. The most important thing is that you're mindful at the present moment. And alam mo yun, when you're at the present moment, you would know that, okay, inaasar ako ni Ricardo, would I let him stress me? Pero hindi ko siya kailangan ngayon, so I kick him away. Yung mga ganyan.
May question tayo. Sino raw si Ricardo? Hindi, joke lang.
Ex ko, hindi, joke lang.
So, yan, parang ang haba na pala ng pag-usapan natin.
I know, right?
Parang dami pala talagang pasikot-sikot nitong, stress and anxiety na ganito. Of course, it's, all the tips that you gave us, it's I'd say a staging point for us to start feeling better, start to be more open to, taking this particular course of action, and more importantly, to start asking for help, professional help, in fact, if they need it. Of course, siguro transition tayo, you work with a particular company that offers therapy, guidance, ano ba yung tawag dyan?
Overall, we are Hello Happy PH, and we offer overall and holistic emotional and mental therapy. So anything under the sun, right? May specific na therapy na para dyan. And obviously, to put things black and white, psychotherapy and talk therapy. Usually, psychotherapy is for people who are clinically diagnosed, and talk therapy is for people who are not okay at present because of a significant negative thing to them, a challenging thing that happened to them, like nakipag-break sa boyfriend, nawala ng work, hindi alam ang gagawin, mga and such. And I know we're running out of time, but if I may share one thing, because people always ask this, bakit ba ako depressed? Bakit ba ako may anxiety? And if we are ending, before we end, I'd say that you get depression and anxiety and all those mental concerns or illnesses in two ways. But there are a lot of ways, but I will break them down into two. The first is that it can be in your genes, right? these things, yung mga pinagdadaanan natin, anxiety, depression, and such, are all living in our brain. And just like the heart, the brain is an organ. And it's just that the previous generations were not fully open about mental health. Diba? Ngayon siya yung medyo may mga hashtag na end the stigma and make going to the therapy center a natural thing or part of our normalcy, ganyan. So it can namamana siya because they all live in your brain, which is an organ of the body. So just like ang alta presyon, high blood pressure, namamana siya. And hindi naman ibig sabihin na pag namana mo siya, active na siya right away. So kung may heart condition ka na alta presyon na namana mo, it gets activated by what? Pagkain ng crispy pata, pagkain ng barbecue, ng lempo, pwede siyang ma-activate by these. Sabihin natin, nasa bloodline mo yung diabetes, and sometimes, most of the time, hindi ka naman magkakasakit, hindi naman sasabihin na diabetic ka until you eat sugar excessively. Right? Same with the brain. They can be, your bloodstream may be flowing anxiety and depression from your parents, from your ancestors, but it doesn't mean that it's already active. Pwede naman na it can get triggered by a couple of things that happened to you in the past. And with that, you go to therapy, you take medications for it to work. Very important. You talk to people. If it doesn't work, you talk to a professional. If it still doesn't work, the professional will either take you to a medical doctor or will ask you to take medication. So it's that. And the other way to get yung mga mental disorders, long term or short term, would be through your experiences in life, in two ways. It may either be inflicted to you, na-abuse ka mentally, mentally, socially, na-bully, pwedeng sexually, emotionally, verbally, physically, nagawa sa'yo. Hindi ka makapag-cope, nag-manifest into depression, into anxiety, sometimes post-trauma stress disorder, or what we call PTSD, right? And sometimes, you get that not firsthand. Pwede rin hindi nangyari sa'yo yun, pero na-witness mo. Parang lumaki ka sa environment na magulo. Nakita mo yung nanay mo, binubugbog yung tatay mo. Akala mo yun yung normal. Naging ganun ka rin. Or sabihin natin na yung kinalakihan mo may nagpapatayan or very rowdy or sa war, veterans need this the most, yung therapy. That's why merong hotline in the US for therapies like this. So yun. So please do not think that that anxiety, depression, and all forms of the other mental illnesses are not real. Sometimes they lie in our blood. It's just so sad that the previous generations were not fully open about it. Of course, there are people who are open about it, like your older psychologists, older than me, and your psychiatrists. But kasi may stigma na pag pumunta ka sa mga shrink o sa mga katulad namin is baliw ka na. Hindi po totoo yun. Sometimes may pinagdadaanan lang talaga yung tao. And if there's one thing that I would share or that I would give people before we end is that please be always kind to people. The world is hard as it is now, and you don't know what a person is going through. And you just want to be better for the present and for the future generations because the times are really changing. So
Again, those are very powerful words, and I completely agree with everything that you say. Ang dali talaga pagandahin ng araw ng isang tao. A simple gesture, a simple, word, di ba? Things like that. Ang laki ng impact ng sabihin natin sa araw ng tao na yun, and more so to the other people that you will deal with. And at the same time, ang laki rin ng maging impact if we're mean to a particular person, kung ipasa natin yung stress natin, frustration natin sa ibang tao. I know everyone's stressed, pero parang let's not make it an excuse to be mean to other people or to give other people a hard time kasi things are already hard in itself.
They are, yeah.
So, yun, again, we're talagang very useful and very powerful insights what you were able to share us. Again, if they want to get in touch with you, they could contact yung flash ko sa screen, di ba? Hello Happy PH on Facebook and hellohappy.th on Instagram.
Yes.
On top of that, paano naman kung gusto nila mag-try ng yoga? How then can they contact you?
Just message me on Instagram. I'm Ghia Nabong, one word.
Ghia Nabong. Okay, so ano naman, yan.
And with
So,
Hello Happy, we do things holistically. So if you schedule consultation, pwede mag-yoga. Sasabihin ko yung schedule ng yoga classes ko.
talaga. So,
Yeah.
yun, hit two birds with one stone. Kasi,
Right? We make things holistic. Right?
holistic
Mind, body, and
development talaga.
spirit.
But ako talaga, if you're still apprehensive about talking to a professional, just follow the steps na sinabi ni Gia. Like, start with, yung mga breathing exercises, meditation,
Your first
um,
aid kit, the
awareness,
people
the
that you
first
need to
aid
talk
kit,
to,
mm
your
tapos
toolbox, your wellness toolbox.
wellness toolbox, talking to a friend, but with the ultimate goal, I think we want to remove the stigma talaga that talking to a psychological professional, a psychiatrist, etc., that automatically brands you as someone who's insane or is someone who deserves to be in the mental hospital or what. Absolutely not. Marami tayong pinagdadaanan, and I think it's more than kung tayo nga pumupunta tayo sa doktor kahit na minsan masama lang yung pakiramdam natin.
Right?
Dapat ganun rin yung approach natin para, we don't want things to get out of hand. So, again, very thankful for, of course, sharing your expertise, your experience with
Thank
us,
you.
your all the insights. I hope everyone will find useful. And yun nga, if anyone wants to contact you, they could to contact you through Instagram, Ghia Nabong, for their yoga needs, and for yung ano naman, yung health and wellness needs naman, Hello Happy PH. All right. So that's it.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, guys,
Thank you,
for
Coach.
spending your evening with us. I hope you learned a lot. We're always here to help. Si Gia can contact if you have any questions. You could also contact me. We'll also post I guess, yung profile or yung links through our Facebook page. Please don't forget to like our Facebook page and, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Gonna try and create more content to help people deal with the tough times now, and, of course, we
Sure.
ultimately to improve their well-being, and, of course, as a coach naman, yung physical prowess. All right. So again, guys, stay safe and thanks for spending your time with us.
Thank you.
Bye.